Let me get my notes, because I am that bitch.
I love this for her.
I know. I keep making the same joke over and over, but that is really the basis of our podcast, so I'm not going to worry about it.
No.
Hello and welcome back to the Fic List, everybody.
Yes. Oh my gosh. It's been so long. I'm so sorry. I was caught up reading my notes and you just sprung it on me. I was like, oh shit. Whoa.
I noticed that you weren't paying attention and decided that I was going to be a little asshole about it.
You rude asshole.
I know.
I loved it.
You love me.
Yeah.
This is the basis of our friendship. It's being little rude ass gremlins to each other and being like, it's cool.
It's our love language.
It is our love language. Hello, Alan. Welcome back. I feel like it's been so long since last we recorded.
Oh man, it feels like eons ago.
It's been at least a minute.
It's been at least one bathroom trip.
Yes. All right. For those who are following along at home, while this episode, I guarantee you, is posted like weeks later.
So sorry.
The last episode was recorded quite literally moments ago. So we're just going to this is a doubleheader. We're back to our old shit. And so if it gets unhinged, that's why.
Yeah, it's true. We've been going at this for a while now.
Yeah. It's also 9:15 p.m. on a Wednesday. So
Wednesday, September 14th, 2022, in case anyone is curious.
Yeah, so we'll see how long it takes us to actually get this out and posted. It'll be hilarious.
Yeah. Leave a review telling us when this posted.
Yeah, comment. Let us know. The editing process of this podcast is not easy. just so you know. Anyway, welcome back.
Welcome back.
We're here with another episode of the Fic List for you, and that episode is da 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 da. Fix it, Fic.
Yeah.
Y'all, I feel like I really am I'm in my winning era. I don't think that's a thing, but I'm winning. It's not my villain era because it's not villainy. I'm so happy with these two tags.
Oh, amazing. I was going to say, it's really fascinating how the last tag I felt was so specific. Like, it's specific to this, trope. And Fix It is just, kind of any loose definition for what you what you think needs to be fixed.
Fully. I love that.
Me too. I love it. It's like the duality of man.
The duality of fic.
Yeah.
Well, also, to a degree, this is not always true, because some people do just really revel in the canon, and that's what they're here to do, fanfic wise. A lot of fic, even if it's untagged, is fix it fic, because there's something happening in fanfic that you're like, I want to do this better. Quoth, Icarus Pendragon, aka Burke, canon sucks, my ideas are better. I want that on a t-shirt.
The immortal words.
Yeah, it was one of the best ways of putting it. And so Fix It is exciting because it could be anything. It could be any fic, and it can go any way you want it to go, and it's super fun. So yeah, I think this is gonna be a fun one.
I agree.
Yep.
Let's see. Do you have much experience with fics that are trying to fix something, Aaron?
Ooh, Alan. Just a little bit. For those of you who've listened to our Fan Expo Boston Ficlit episode, go back to my OTPs inevitably are all Fix It OTPs every time, because I have this propensity for just absolutely falling in love with doomed characters, and part of that is because I am queer. And queer characters are inevitably doomed. That's just how popular media is. Ooh. And I think part of that, that's just a hard truth that we're all gonna have to sit with.
Yup.
And I think another part of it is that they are often more interesting to play with, because you have room to extrapolate on subtext. You have different interpretations can all be well and good because there's no canon or or something happened in canon. It's well, I don't what if this didn't happen? Like, what if Quentin lived, you know? Like, this is a much more interesting story to me than what the writers put out. So, death of the author. I'm the author now. Try me, bitch. Like,
yeah.
So I read a lot of fic, which is why I suggested this one. What about you, Alan?
I have to say, I don't. When you first suggested it, if you remember, my first question to you was, "Is that a tag I can search?"
That was your question.
Because to me, fix it fic, I was like, "Isn't all fic essentially fix it fic?" But then you gave me the spiel that you just did, which I was like, "Okay, yeah, no, there's different ways in which fic manifests itself," and I think that fix it is one that I don't necessarily think I've had a lot of experience with. I think that in a sense I do, like a lot of my OTPs, like Naruto Sasuke, you know, Harry and Draco, you know, are not together in canon, allegedly.
If you're not a coward.
But I still put them together. So in my head, I'm like, well, that kind of counts. Like, that's a fix it kind of a fic.
Yeah.
But I can't think of many fics I've read in the past that are like specifically like, oh, I'm going to take this event that happened in fic and I'm going to write like, oh, what if it didn't? Or what if it happened differently? I haven't had much experience with those kind of fics. So I was excited to dive in.
Fun. That's a lot of my fan fiction history.
We know this though. We know that you love the potential for things.
I do. I love potential. Anyway, that's fun.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy trying to find a fix it fic? Was that something that was like, was it hard?
You know, this is a really funny story. I was several weeks behind in sending you something. A shock of shock to no one.
I remember.
Yep.
The North remembers.
Rude?
It's fine. I love you very much.
No. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it was just during that period in which my brains were mashed potatoes. I couldn't think of anything.
Yeah.
And so when it came time and I was like, I need to find a fic to send to Aaron, I was like, okay, let me go through fandoms I'm currently like obsessing over. And I was like, oh, I really want to talk about this one in particular. Let's see if I can find anything for this fandom in the fix it tag. And there was two. There were two singular fics, and one of them happened to be like exactly what I was looking for. I was like, great, thank you. I think from the time I like sat down to search and and when it was on the Google sheet for you, I think the time that elapsed must have been like 45 minutes to an hour.
Wow.
It was the quickest I've ever settled on something. I was like, perfect, done. Woo.
That never happens for you.
No, oh my God, the relief I felt. It was great.
Yeah.
What about you?
I had so many to choose from. I had a whole litany of options. And like, in my case, I also went fandom first because I am currently deep in the feels with Steve Harrington and Eddie Munson from Stranger Things.
Spoilers.
Who is surprised? And so obviously there's a ton of fix it fic to choose from there, and I knew what I wanted right away. So that was like, there was no difficulty.
Oh, so there wasn't even like a trying to choose between like two or three you really liked. You were just like, this is the one.
Yeah, no, I had one in mind from the jump. It's kind of why I picked, it's part of the reason I suggested this tag, was that I was like, I'm sitting on at least one that I know. So
nice.
Yeah, it was straight up. But I am thrilled with the fic that you sent me because it is a fandom that I'm also really excited about, but I haven't seen the show yet. So I really want to watch it. I really want to get into it. And it's like actually on my list. Everybody always says, it's on my list or whatever. This is like well and truly on my list.
It's on the real list.
Yeah. Can we talk about it? Because it's like really good.
Yeah. Right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Okay. So then you should start, right? Because we're talking about what I sent to you.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
No, not at all. Please.
I just finished this like maybe half an hour before we started recording, which is also why I'm like, I need to get this out now because
understood.
I'll forget. And I'm gonna have a mental breakdown about study at the end of this anyway. So it's best to just like
looking forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward. So the fix it fic you sent me is A League of Our Own, the TV show.
Yes. Woo. Oh my God.
Oh, I
Aaron.
know. Alan.
I watched the movie recently because I knew that the show was coming, and I was like, okay, I need to rewatch this. And also, I've been strangely into baseball because my best friend has been really into baseball this season, and so I've been just by second degree just like getting some of that love for it too. So I rewatched the movie, and I was like, oh, that's really good. I was surprised at how well it held up. I thought. I had a good time, and then I was like, okay, time to when the show came out, I was like, okay, I need to get to it at some point. It was like, again, it was on my real list, but I have trouble with TV.
We know
yeah. And then I sat down, like, I needed to watch something to, like, I needed something on the background or something, and I was like, okay, let's put on episode 1 and we'll just watch that. And this was like during the workday. Like, I needed it on the background while I was working, so it must have been like noon, 1:30, noon, thereabouts. I put the first episode on, and then somehow 9 hours had passed. I'd binged the entire thing in one fucking sitting,
and then I woke up.
Yeah, and I looked around and I was like, "What happened?"
Yeah,
I was so taken by this series. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
I cannot wait for you to watch it and tell me all of your reactions.
I can't wait. So I am a huge fan of the movie. The movie is important to me emotionally. It's like one of those movies that I saw really young, and like it's always stuck with me. It is like something that we would watch at like women's college, and like it's something I just showed my best friend this movie for the first time, and like yeah, it's like very meaningful. And like one of the frustrations that I've always had with the movie is that it really was like forced to gloss over some of the deeper issues of the time. And it is an incredible movie, and it has its place in certainly feminist film, like popular media, because it was a popular film. It's not like an art film, so like it has its place amongst the feminist canon, but like it had some deep flaws because of the way, like the time in which it came out. Like they did not talk about the intersection of race with regards to the American Leagues and all this stuff. They did not deal with queerness, and so to see this show like actively, I know that they get into it. I was like,
oh man,
I'm not gonna do well when I watch this show.
Oh man, Erin. Oh, I didn't realize you were such a big fan of the movie. Oh my god.
I just purchased some Rockford Peaches patches because one of my goals for next year for con season is to have a full League of Our Own cosplay outfit, and it's been a thing that I've been dancing around for years. Caitlin will tell you I wanted to do it for Philly 2019 and didn't do it, so I want to make a vintage, like a screen accurate of the movie outfit.
Oh my god, I'm so jealous. I'm so obsessed with their look. It's gonna be so cute.
It's nuts. Well, and I have been doing roller sets for so long. Like my hair, I can do my hair in rollers, and I've been doing vintage hair for a long time, that like it would just be so great. Like it would be one of those things that like I could totally pull off. So anyway, all that said, I'm totally fine if you spoil plot points for me for this, because I think most of it has already been spoiled for me via Tumblr gifs, which is fine. It just is what it is. But I'm happy to talk about it because it's important to talk about the fic. So this fic, all that said, I haven't seen the show, so I have no idea who these characters are. Because they're not from the movie. I was just along for the ride again. But it's Greta Gill and Carson Shaw femslash, and it is Canon Divergence Fix It Fic. And the summary, the title is You're on the Mend, Babe, by No Better Love. The summary is, what if the bar raid in episode 6 never happened? Read to find out what might have taken place if that night stayed blissful and perfect for Carson and Greta. Or a happy take on a Fix It. I love that.
Yep. It's
really good. It's also very accurate to the fic that I read. It's quite literally what I just read. And now to my notes.
Let's do it.
So the fic starts with Greta and Joe talking about things. There's some history there that I fully don't understand, but like whatever. I didn't need to delve too deeply into it. Basically, the gist of it is that Joe is much more pessimistic, while Greta is clearly has some like vague optimism regarding herself and her like sort of budding relationship with Carson. Were Greta and Joe together? Like, was that what it was?
No. So Joe and Greta are like really, they're best friends. They're like found family, like almost sisters basically, and they've been kind of following each other around different cities, never really staying in one place too long, so it never looks like suspicious kind of a thing. And so now they're in the league together, and that's kind of the impetus where they find each other now.
Got it. Well, they're basically having like an establishing conversation. Like that's just really the point of that opening sort of scene. it's very much an introduction on Greta, as she is, one, coming to terms with being in love with Carson, or at least having feelings for Carson, and two, navigating being queer and potentially entering into a queer relationship and what that will entail in the time that they are in. So that's kind of the conversation that they are dancing around. Point 2, there is baseball. I don't know.
Yep.
Baseball stuff happens. I'm not a sports ball child.
They do the baseball.
Yeah, they do the baseball. They win the points. They're doing fine, I guess. I don't know. What's more important is that Greta and Carson have a conversation after some baseball stuff have happened about Dana, who was Greta's former girlfriend from when she was much younger. They had gotten caught together, and Dana was, quote, sent away. And this is a particularly sobering conversation for the two of them. It's kind of them having their first real conversation about like what a queer relationship would look like for them and how they'd have to be very careful. And like Carson is picking up what she's saying by sent away. Like she does not have to tell the full story for Carson to understand that like there's a risk here, and that's why Greta is very hesitant. Yeah,
because thus far in the narrative, just for some context, like they've been hooking up, they've been messing around.
Yeah,
but Carson is starting to want more, and Greta's like, ooh, because of this.
That's helpful context because the fic does not tell you that they're screwing around. I think it was to be understood from the show. Totally valid. This is fanfic. That's the point. But without that the show context, I didn't know that. So that makes some sense. So they're getting a little bit more serious. And as this is happening, the team starts to win. Yay. This is good because players were going to start getting traded, but then they don't. I assume this is a show plot.
It is. It
Great.
Sure is.
Perfect. So as they start to sort of turn around, they don't get traded off. Greta keeps turning Carson down to go on dates to things, basically. Carson keeps wanting to like take the next step and make things more serious, but Greta is afraid of being caught. She finally, after a while, like says yes to a date. They go and get pizza and they talk about the future, and it's very cute. That's what I wrote. The team wins enough games to then approach the playoffs. There's more sports that happen while all these relationship things are going on. And to celebrate, but also to like have a date, Carson kind of talks Greta, or Greta agrees to go to a gay bar with Carson. This is also apparently a show thing. This is where the divergence happens, I think, because in the show this does not go well.
Yeah.
In this case, it goes great. They have a lovely time. They like Carson makes some like promises about the future. She's like, I want to stay with you. Greta doesn't really believe them. She's like, you're married. Like, I'm not going to get my heart set on this girl who's married. But like, these are nice sentiments. Like, she's enjoying her night. Point 8A, they go and have very sweet sex in the car after. They like take a little bit of a risk and they go have like some delightful sex.
Yes.
And then the next day, Carson's husband shows up unexpectedly at the house that the team lives in. And she basically sends him packing. She's like, no, I'm not here for your heterosexual bullshit. She doesn't say that, but that's basically the energy. And then in point 10, it's the end of the season. Greta and Carson are together. They're going off into the sunset. It's great because Carson wasn't kidding. Like, she was serious. And she was like, I see a future with you. And they have this like very sweet sort of like send-off scene of like, it's the end of the season. They're going to go and like, they might go to California because they might be able to be a little bit safer there. But like Greta's like, you know, Carson's never had to live out of a suitcase before, but it's something they're going to navigate together. And like, it's just very sweet. So that was a very sort of like plot, like point by point summary of this fic. But I think it's important to know that it's very impressionistic and it's very in Greta's head.
Yeah.
So actually similar to the Adventure Zone fic from the previous episode, it's very much a character study on Greta and her navigating this relationship as it shifts. So it's a lot more flowery, it's a lot more introspective than the plot summary that I just sort of like hashed out would have you believe. But it's great.
That was a great summary though. Great point by point.
This is why I take notes now.
I love this. I love this for us.
Yeah, because without those notes I'd be a mess. Things I loved about it. All of the queerness.
Yes.
I loved the complexity of the queer relationship. I loved the complexity of the relationships between the characters. I loved the writing of it. It was really well written. I don't understand sports, but I felt like I was fine. And yeah, it just was a really good, it's pretty short. It's like I think like 8,000 something words.
Yeah, thereabouts.
Yeah, so it's almost 9,000 words, and it's a pretty quick read. So it's one of those things, like, I think if you really like the show and are, like, really interested in exploring what could have happened if what happened in the show didn't happen, then this is the fic for you, my friends.
Yep.
And I look forward to rereading this when I've seen the show and actually have context for it.
Yes. Yeah. I am fully obsessed with this show. I thought it was just, God, it was by turns really hilarious and then really heartbreaking and like just so real. It was great. I really enjoyed it. And part of what I really enjoyed of this fic, I thought that it took so much from canon, like basically all of the setup, all of the stuff with the playoffs, and up until they get to that bar. And so, you know, spoilers, although they say it on the summary, in the show, they're in the bar and they're having like a nice moment of a nice evening out, and then there's a raid by the police in which Carson and Greta have to run away. Joey, who was in the bar with them, is not so lucky, gets caught by the police, gets beat up, and then there's this whole like moment afterwards where Greta is just like immediately like, I'm so sorry, this is my fault. So it's a really like powerful episode, and to have found a fic that like talks about like what if that had not happened on that particular night was so fucking gratifying in every fucking way. I also really loved that this was a character study basically of Greta, because in the show I feel like a lot of the times I didn't always understand why Greta was doing things. Like you kind of get this overarching like motivation for her with the story of Dana and how she, you know, she's afraid to let anyone close, and so she lives her life kind of like that, like never letting herself get close or like fall in love or be in a relationship with another woman. She sleeps around, and then as soon as it feels like she's like getting strings, she bounces out of town, and that's the way she lives her life. And so I thought that the author did a really good job of marrying all of the canon, because I think nearly all of the dialogue, especially in the first like 2/3 of this fic, is from the show, like specifically pulled from the show, and to have woven like even more character around that, to have like bridged gaps with Greta and how she interacts with Carson and how she sees their relationship, and this like trepidation that she feels. Like she very clearly has feelings for Carson, but is just so afraid of like expressing that because of the time they're in, and you know, all of these different things. And that's not something that I think fully comes across in the show. I might be wrong. I did binge this, so that you know, I think that you always lose something, I think, when you're like just going through a marathon of a thing.
Right.
But I felt like in the show, like you could tell all of that on a very like surface level, but it's also an ensemble show, so there's so many like characters you're kind of parsing through. So it was lovely to get a fic that really like delves into the side, like her psyche and like what she was thinking, and to have done it so well and marrying it to the canon. I adored it.
That's amazing. Yeah, this is it. I gotta watch this show.
You need to watch the show so bad.
Yeah, I really
everyone
do.
should watch the show.
Yeah, it
Give
seems
it a try.
great.
Yeah.
It seems lovely.
It's also Carson, the actress who plays Carson, Abby Jacobson, was a star and / co-writer of Broad City.
Yep.
Which I adore. I love Broad City. And then when I came and I started watching A League of Their Own, I'm like, okay, I have to make peace with the fact that it's not going to be like the same type of humor. And then it totally was. Somehow, like Abby Jacobson's like humor is so like contemporary, but also fits in this really. It's a strange dichotomy. I hope someone else can tell me if maybe I'm wrong, but I was like so charmed by the humor. It was so funny.
That's awesome. I was not expecting that. I love that. Darcy Carden is Greta, right?
Yep.
She
does an amazing job. And everyone does. That show is so well cast. It's incredible.
That is definitely one of the things that I've been seeing floating around, is just like the strength of that cast is what like partially like what makes the show really special, is that like it's just heavy hitter after heavy hitter, and they all like very clearly understood the assignment and took it really seriously, which I think when you're like, I hate to say it, but when you're making something queer, you have to understand the assignment, and you better step up, because there just isn't enough out there on the main stage. There's like tons of indie queer stuff that is incredible and like deserves its due, but when you're talking about a platform like Amazon, like or, you know, Netflix with Heartstopper, like, you do, like, for better or worse, there's much less out there that is explicitly queer. So you end up being somewhat representative of the community. And so when you have actors, regardless of their personal backgrounds, like, taking it seriously and giving it their all and putting all of it in there, like, that is so important. And it shows when you take it seriously. And it's not just sort of like a clickbaity, like, we're doing this to, like, appease a demographic or whatever. Like, when you're trying to be thoughtful with it, that comes through and is successful.
Yeah, I cannot recommend the show to anyone anymore. Like, I recommend it so highly. It's one of my favorites that I've seen this year. It's so good.
Amazing. Well, it's on my list.
So what would you rate this fic, Aaron?
Solid. I'll give it a 4.
Nice. We'll take it.
And like, because I think it'll probably mean more when I have the context behind it, and more of the context was necessary for this fic than others that I've read that were not like that I wasn't familiar with, so I had a hard time with that. I don't like, but it was still great. So yeah, 4.
I'll take a 4. An Aaron 4? Are you kidding?
That's excellent. I've been the really nice one this year. in a stunning turn of events.
You have been. Yeah.
I don't know. Burke showed up once, and now I'm a nice person.
I know. I was like, okay, yeah, she's always this nice. You're
like, you're full of shit. You teacher's pet.
You got a little brown on your nose there.
Ooh, gross.
Oh, burn.
You're not wrong. Oh, moving right along.
Yeah. Yep. I'd give it a 4.3 personally.
Okay.
But that's because I had the context. Yeah. Absolutely.
That makes total sense.
Nice.
Can we talk about Steady now?
Well, I get to talk first.
You do. Go ahead.
Great. So moving on to the fic that I was assigned this episode. It's called Besides All the Glamour, open parentheses, All We Got Was Bruised, close parentheses. It's on Archive of Our Own, and it's written by House Hinka _love.
It's definitely a Green Day reference because it's Hoshinka.
Great.
There's a song. It's a song.
Hoshinka?
Hoshinka. Yeah.
Hoshinka _love.
Yeah. There's a song by Green Day. Hoshinka is a girl with a peculiar name. Anyway, moving on.
Great. Anyway. The summary reads, he knew through rumors and jokes and the literal handcuffs hanging on his wall that Eddie liked things rough. Probably liked his partners rough and strong and durable in a way Steve hadn't been since the first time he swung a baseball bat full of rusty nails at a monster from an alternate dimension. Since Jonathan and Billy and several unnamed Russian officers had each taken a turn at making mincemeat of his face. Since chipped teeth and concussions and broken bone after broken bone. For all his bravado, for all the time he spent chasing down demons and play-acting a hero, he knew the second Eddie laid his hands on him, he would crumble. And he just couldn't live with the shame of having his chance and ruining it because he couldn't keep up. Or the one in which Eddie Munson lives and Steve Harrington learns that it's okay to want. Yeah. Another excerpt summary, which we
It's an
adore.
excerpt summary. But it has an or. It has an or.
I was going to say, but the or, as usual, is like, yeah. I think this or is maybe a little too open-ended, but fair. Yeah, so this fic starts post season 4, post Vecna, and Steve is at the hospital watching Eddie recover. So in this fic, oh my god, I've forgotten his name. Steve. In this fic, Steve actually pulls a dying Eddie through the portal back from the Upside Down so that he doesn't die there. And they are able to get him to the hospital, and like it was a very close call, but he's still with us. Thank God.
Truly.
Yeah. And so the first part of this fic is just Steve, wanting to see that Eddie is okay, and like Steve kind of processing the trauma of what all they just went through. Eventually Eddie does wake up and Steve is about to like bolt out of there, but he notices that Eddie is like really grateful that he's there. He looks really grateful to have him there, and then you're like, oh, okay. And slowly and surely they start to like hang out a lot, and at first it's like them kind of you know, kind of having no one else to talk to about the shit they kind of went through, and processing all of that trauma. And then slowly but surely they become friends, and Eddie starts coming around the video store, the family video store that
good old family video.
We love a family video that Steve works at. And during this time, Steve, who we find out has never been with a man, who is bisexual, has never been with a man, is starting to notice that he has feelings for one Eddie Munson, but is terrified of that because as the summary mentions, he knows that Eddie has kind of a reputation, or like maybe it's just the public opinion of him and how he presents that, you know, he would like things rough and, you know, choking and spanking, biting, all that kind of stuff. And Steve doesn't think he's able to, because of the trauma that he's gone through. He's not sure that he's able to engage in that kind of play. And so in his head, he's like, so Eddie can't ever, like, I can't ever be with Eddie because I can't fulfill his needs in that way, is the thinking that he has. But it's very clear to everyone that Eddie is very clearly enamored with Steve Harrington, and that Steve is obviously also enamored with him, to the point that Robin at one point like confronts Steve at the video store and is like, so are you ever gonna say something about it? And Steve is like, shut up. No, I will not.
I live for that moment in Fic. In Steady Fic. I love when Robin's like, y'all are stupid. So good.
And also, like, Robin has a quote where she says, it's definitely not like I know how scary it is to want something you think you don't deserve to have. And I was like, oh my god, this bitch just dropping truths out here like that. Oh my god. Yep. And so they've settled into this routine now where Eddie's coming over like basically every day and hanging out at the family video until Steve gets off work, and then they'll hang out at Steve's house usually. They'll watch a video, they'll get high, and then that's the evening made for them. And there happens to be an evening in which it escalates a little further, and there's some, you know, hand holding, and then there's someone on someone else's lap, and then there's some making out, and then suddenly Steve Harrington is horizontal on the couch with one Eddie Munson above him. And it is very hot. It's very like, yep, this is great, this is exactly what I'm here for. And then in the throes of passion, if you will, Eddie puts his hand on Steve's throat to kind of, you know, there's a little like airplay. That's actually an Apple thing. Breath play. That's the word I was looking
for. Never mind, he says.
Scratch that. Can we cut that?
Yeah. No, it's staying in.
Great. I love it. Yeah, so he puts his hand on Steve's throat to kind of start, you know, some play in that direction, and Steve is triggered basically and has a whole like panic attack about it, and is remembering all of the, you know, times that he's been like abused, for lack of a better word, by all of the like demons and villains of the Stranger Things series up until now. And so he like immediately, and Eddie's immediately, to his credit, is like, oh shit, you know, pans back, I'm, you know, so sorry, did not mean to trigger you. And Steve is like in tears, basically curled up on the couch, and is like, you know, I know that we can't ever be together because, you know, I know how you like things. And Eddie's like, what are you talking about? And hang on, let me find the actual progression because I think it's important. Oh yeah, so I forgot that Steve actually, it's not just necessarily like a panic. I guess like he blacks out. He like almost passes out basically from as a reaction to the hand on his throat. And he's like, I'm so sorry. And Eddie says, no, don't apologize to me for this, Steve. You don't have to. And it was so sweet. And like Eddie's immediately like trying to like, you know, tells an inside joke or something, and then Steve starts crying because he's like, oh my god, this is the most perfect man. Yeah, so at one point Eddie's asking like, oh, so are you okay? And Steve's like, no, I am not. And this quote, Eddie Munson says basically, oh yeah, that's, I guess I'm full of stupid questions tonight. And the quote says, and then, because he's quite possibly the bravest person Steve has ever met, can we talk about it? Yes. Oh my god, I was like, of course Aaron sent this. was my first thought, but then B was like, that's amazing. And Eddie's basically like, you know, so what was it exactly that triggered you? Was it that, you know, did you want me to kiss you at all? And Steve was like, well, that's a stupid question. Yeah. And Eddie's like, okay, so then what's the problem? And Steve says something to, like, is unable to verbalize exactly what it is. He has all this inner turmoil, and he says, oh, I just don't want to be hurt. Mm-hmm. And Eddie is like, oh, okay, so you're already thinking that I'm going to hurt you based on the stuff that you've heard from other people. Eddie immediately thinks it's like a reputation kind of a thing, where Steve is like, actually like, no, I just don't like pain. I don't like being like, it's not part of it. It's a squick for me. I don't like being in pain during
This is
sex.
a me thing. This is very much a me thing. Yeah.
Yep. And so then they have a very open, beautiful conversation about boundaries, and like Eddie says, okay, I know the throat is a no-go, what else is not good, like what do you not want me to do? And I don't remember the other one actually, because I think he has one more. Do you?
I do remember, because it's restraints,
that's the other one. Yeah, he doesn't want to be restrained of her. And Eddie's like, okay, yeah, we can definitely, like, heard loud and clear, we don't have to do those things, like I want to do what my partner likes. And so then Eddie also offers up something that he's not comfortable with, which is biting. Mm-hmm. He's like, I don't like being bitten. Something about those demon bats really turns you off to it.
Yeah.
And it's fair.
Yep. Have you seen this most recent season, Alan?
No, of course not.
Oh, great. Dumb question. Speaking of stupid questions. Yeah. That's how he actually dies, is he gets eaten by demo bats. So
yeah, I did.
That was
a
fun line.
Like I know the context of it, and I've seen the like clip.
Yeah,
very sad. But yeah, that's his thing, and he's like, that's what I don't like. And basically from then on, they have just really beautiful intimacy. They have like, they go up to Steve's room and they're like exploring each other, having like sex. Although the actual sex is not portrayed in the fic, and I feel cheated and I feel robbed, and I am gonna leave a very strongly worded message in the reviews.
Great.
And then the next morning comes after this like really beautiful night, and they're like basically together, and Steve wakes up alone in his house in his bed, which he rarely ever sleeps in, which I thought was really sad. He's like, I usually just pass out on the couch. So he's in his bedroom for the first time. He wakes up, Eddie's not there, and so he like looks over the edge, and he's like, oh, maybe like his clothes are here. He's in the bathroom or something. Clothes are not there. He doesn't hear anything from the like bathroom, so he knows it's not like a shower situation, and he's just devastated. He's crushed. He's like, I fucked it up somehow, and this is awful. Steve.
Sad boy Steve.
Sad boy Steve. Yep. And then he heads downstairs, and of course Eddie's in the kitchen like making breakfast for them, and it's all a happy ending, and it's adorable, and I loved it.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the fic, and man, did I enjoy it. I had a wonderful time. This is the second Eddie Munson fic I've read for this show. Yes. And I have to say, this fic made me get it. I got it.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
I was like, oh shit. Hell yeah. I'm here for it. Which is why I'm upset there was no sex scene. I'm just kidding, mostly. But man, I was like, ooh, it's warm in here, isn't it? It was written very well. And that like, oh my God, I have to read this quote. That's the only other quote I pulled. Eddie looks him dead in the eye. No bullshit. No bullshit. Let me like you as you are, he says, as if that's not earth-shattering. And that, I think, is kind of the emotion, like the through line of this fic, and that Steve is so scared of like letting people in, again, kind of what we were just talking about with the Hanahaki disease, is so scared to let himself want anything, because he's like, any number of things could happen. Like, I'm not good enough. Like, I could lose people. Like, I've seen people die, all of these different things. And Eddie's like, yeah, I've also seen people I care about die. Like, I've been there, but I still wanted, like, let me like you for who you are. You don't have to put up any pretentious bullshit for me. Like, I just like you. Yeah. Makes my heart happy.
No. Yeah. Out of curiosity, because I'm about to go on a huge long rant about Steady, what would you rate this fic? Just like without my input in it.
Let me take another gander. I think, you know what's funny? As I was reading this, there was parts where I was like, oh my gosh, they keep referencing like Stranger Things. That's what fanfic does. But
yeah.
like it was almost to a point that I found some parts I was like, okay, this is A, excessive, and B, inaccessible to me as someone who hasn't seen it, but I'm not the target demographic. So I was like a little like and then I got to the end and I was like, oh, I loved that. And then I got to the other fic that we talked about last episode and I was like, okay, separate issue. It's totally different issue. No, but I really, really, really loved it. And oh my god, I am a sucker for like, I don't know what it is. I think it's the overwhelming feeling I've had the last like 3 weeks of like leaving my office job and then just going to work somewhere that's like manual, just like a flower shop, a video store, a bookstore, just like a coffee shop, just something that doesn't require my mind to like be dying. It's really appealing to me. So getting those scenes in the family video, I was like, oh, loved it. Yep. So I think overall I would give it, my heart is screaming 4.3, so I'm going to give it another 4.3.
Great. Would knowing that you know the author of this fic change your rating?
No, I don't think so.
Does knowing that the author of this fic is on this Skype call with you?
Did you write this?
Yeah!
Oh my god, you dumb whore! I'm livid. I'm livid with you, Erin. You know what? This call's over. The podcast's done. I hate you. How dare you? First of all, you stole my multi-year nefarious plot.
I did.
You know what? I lied. This does change my rating. It's a 1. It's a 1. You dumb whore. I hate you.
Alan, I've been planning this for weeks. Alan.
I feel betrayed. I feel I hate you so much. Holy shit, Erin. Wow. Oh, of course you knew that. Of course you pointed out that fucking user and you're like, actually.
Uh-huh.
Oh my god. That's hilarious. Great. Oh my. What? You know what? Kudos to you for not losing it when I was like, I wanted a sex scene.
Do you have any idea how hard I was like? Do you have any idea how difficult it is to write smut when you don't like sex?
Oh my god. Whew. Well, congratulations, Erin. Well done.
Thanks.
That was a great fic.
I can't believe I pulled
you
this off.
Dumb whore. I'm so angry with you.
So, dear listeners, here's the saga of how we got to where we are today. I bet you're wondering, who's that girl?
I believe you.
So, when I very first met Alan, this was at the theater that we worked at, and I was his boss. And he was in a group of new hires that was doing a trust exercise with some toys that were laid out on the floor. It was basically like a battleship, but human battleship. And the trust was that you had to, like, the cohort that had just been hired had to lead each other using only their words through a maze that I had set up of toys on the floor. And so, you know, they get through all of them and they're all successful. And then at the end, I let the group lead me through the maze, but I gave them about 30 seconds to change it around. And I said, okay, change it, and then I'll close my eyes and you can lead me through it. And however you want to do that, it's up to you. And I'm walking through the room, right? And I'm hearing they're going, okay, take a step to the right. No, your other right. Take like a giant hop forward, but it has to be a hop. Like, no. Back up like 4 steps. Like, do a little jig. And it didn't occur to me how weird it was until way too late. And then I finally take the blindfold off my face. And there's no toys on the floor. And Alan Gonzalez Business tricked me during a trust exercise.
Oh man, that story still is so funny to me.
And
Here's
now,
here was the other side.
Here in the year of our Lord 2022, Alan gets his comeuppance, you bitch!
Damn. What? A round of applause, everyone. A round of applause. Here's the way that I saw that story, fellas.
Yeah,
I was
your
new
lies.
to the area, did not know anyone. I was like, oh God, I want to make a good impression on people. And so there was 7 of us in a room, and then Aaron would grab us one by one, a la Hunger Games, and take us to the playing field, and where at first Aaron and then other people of the other apprentices were like moving us through the space. And as I was sitting waiting to be called, I was like, I bet this is like a meta exercise, and there's really nothing on the ground, and you're just supposed to be able to fully place your trust on the people that are leading you through this quote unquote maze. I was positive in my heart of hearts that that's what was happening. My turn gets up there. I get called. I get blindfolded. I go onto the room, and they're like, all right, you want to walk forward 3 steps. And I was like, okay, 3 steps. And they're like, okay, now turn slightly to the right or something like that. And I was like, okay. And I was being really like loosey goosey, because again, I knew in my heart of hearts there was nothing on the floor. And so I like do a really large turn, and my foot nudges something, and I freeze. And I'm like, oh no, there's things on the ground. And so then I understood I was wrong. And so then I go through it, and every one of us goes through it. And Aaron very graciously is like, all right, now to show you all that, trust is two-sided, I'm going to let you do it. I'm going to wait outside. You guys have 30 seconds or whatnot. And we're like, okay. I look up. I lock eyes with the other education apprentice, which was my focus. I looked up. I locked eyes, and he was looking at me and just nodded. Like, because I obviously had told everyone after we were done, and I was like, except Aaron, it turns out. I told all the apprentices, like, I thought that's what was happening. And so we were like, this will be fun. And then it was.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, man.
So then, earlier this summer, I fell in love with one Eddie Munson. And I started projecting a lot of my feelings on Steve Harrington. And Steve Harrington, therefore, fell in love with Eddie Munson.
I cannot believe. Oh my God. I am equal parts livid and like just so deeply impressed. Like, I want to like give you a standing ovation right now. I want to throw roses at you.
Thanks. So this idea wormed its way into my brain where I was like, Steve Harrington does not think he can be loved. That is like the core of who he is as a person, because one of the things that happens to him earlier in Stranger Things is that he's in love with Nancy, and he thinks Nancy's in love with him back, and then he discovers pretty horribly in that bathroom scene that like she does not love him, and she's not gentle about it, and that's gotta fuck you up, right? So I was like, what if we took some trauma sprinkled in a dash of emotional constipation, and threw Eddie Munson in there, and like the little chaos gremlin that he has this reputation, right? Like, you can kind of go one of two ways with Eddie, where either he's like a super virgin, which is also fair, or there's also very much a fan and interpretation that like he knows he's queer. He's been out to himself and his family for years, like, or his uncle, I should say, that he's like been out. He goes to Indianapolis on the weekends and goes to like king clubs and stuff. Like, that's who he is, which can be supported by the text, I think, to a degree, because he's in the middle scene and he's slightly older. So it was like, okay, yeah, this is the version of Eddie I want to play with. And then I messaged Mai.
Oh, so you're complicit in this, Mai.
Mai and Caitlin are complicit.
You all have You have an enemy now.
The only person who doesn't know about this is Evelyn, and that's not Evelyn a slight on Evelyn at all. Yeah, I just didn't find time to like talk about this with Evelyn. But I reached out to Mai, and I was like,
same team.
And I was like, Mai, I want to write this thing. It's really wormed in my brain. She was like, do it. Literally just like 5 texts of do it. And I was like, okay.
Yes.
So then I was like, wait, what if I send this to Alan under the guise of it being a fanfic that someone else has written?
I hate you.
And that is what motivated me to finish this fanfic in time for our previous recording date of a month ago.
Oh.
So yeah, that's the story of how it all got to this point. You said some lovely things about my fanfiction.
Good. I'm glad. And I meant them.
I know you did. Well, I think it's so obviously it's a different context to talk about a thing that I wrote, and obviously I have a different interpretation of it because it's interesting. What is really fascinating is that some of the things that you pointed out as like plot points, I was like, oh, that's not really what I intended with that scene, or like that wasn't what that line. Yeah, that wasn't really that moment of like, I think it was like, you know, Steve like backs up and he's like, oh, he's like the perfect man or whatever. I was like, whoa, that's like not at all what I thought Steve was thinking in that moment. I thought Steve was so wrapped up in his own self-hatred that like he couldn't even process someone caring for him through this moment. So it's fascinating that that's how that read to you. And I love that is how that's
a really interesting like exercise in like authorial author's intent and like our interpretations of it. And I am so stoked that you felt safe enough to share that with me and the rest of the world.
Yeah, truly. Well, I also had to make a burner AO3 account because this is not my main AO3 account.
I know. If you didn't think that, if you check, went to that profile.
Yeah, there's 0 bookmarks with this profile. Yeah, that's for a reason. So yeah, that was also part of it. Is I had to put a request in for a new AO3 account like 3 weeks ago to make this happen. However long ago it was, and post it and all that kind of stuff. But I think what I was really interested in the dynamic between the two of them, like Steve is very much my proxy, right? So like I struggle with a lot of that sort of like, this is going to be my emotional vulnerability moment. I struggle as particularly an ace person, but also somebody who just like struggles with physical touch a lot. I really like projected like hell on Steve in this fic, being like, well then what do I have to offer, right? Like how do you have a relationship with someone when your needs don't align, or like your like who you are doesn't align, like sitting in that sort of discomfort of it and really getting in your own head about it, and then just wanting somebody to come along and be like, let's talk about it. Like stop. Let's like
so
hey,
powerful, really powerful.
I like you for you, and B, like I got my own shit to work through. We're gonna talk about this like adults. And like that was what I wanted to write. I'm sorry the sex scene was so unfulfilling for you.
No, it's okay. I just wanted more. God, I'm so angry. This was the fic that mentioned Mai's username, of course.
Yeah, I did really have to bite my tongue on that one. I was like, does it? Weird. Wild. Funny that happened in that fic. Was it? I think it was the Pantolin one.
That makes sense. Every like, I'm going back to the fic and I'm like, oh, duh.
Yeah.
Duh.
I knew that it was going to be a surprise to you, but there was about 10% of me that was like, he's going to pick up on it, because so much of this is so clearly a fanfic that I like.
But that's not hard. You know, like usually you always send something that I think both of us, you know, in some one way or another, we send things that resonate in some way with us.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess part of it was that like there were a couple of tells that like I know, like that I picked up on. Mostly the like, can we talk about it? The like communication thing. There's a line towards the end where Steve is like, he sees an endless future laid out ahead of them, diner dates. I was like, yep. And like, who doesn't love a morning after? Like the morning after scene in general was like so everything that I love in fanfic just regurgitated that I was like, he's gonna probably pick up that like this has like one too many things on the checklist of Aaronisms. He's gonna be suspicious. But no, he was not.
No. It might shock you to hear, I don't think about your Aaronisms when I read fic.
It might shock you to hear, but the world does not revolve around you.
No, I just mean like, I'm thinking of my list. I'm like, yep, check. Also, I cannot believe you had us in the first half, Aaron. I ain't gonna lie. As far as like Steve waking up alone in bed, I was like, well, clearly he's like in the shower or something, or he's gonna like hear him like in the kitchen, and then nothing else. Like, Aaron. Yeah. Well, I guess not Aaron. I was just like, author, no.
Yeah.
You really made me. You scared me for a second.
I scared Steve.
Which in turn is like a projection of you, so you scared yourself.
Yeah, really. Well, there was a piece of me that was like, okay, you can make it like, you know, bathroom, whatever, but I really wanted Eddie to be having a fist fight with a really overly complicated coffee pot. I just had this vision, right, of like Eddie being somebody who like almost definitely drinks instant coffee, right? Like that is who this man is. He probably heats water up on the stove and drinks instant coffee. And for him to like walk into the Harringtons kitchen, the Harringtons, who have the nicest of everything that they never use, having the most complicated coffee pot that the 80s can offer, and just standing there going, shit, fuck, son of a bitch. Like, I just want to do something nice for Steve and I fucking can't figure it out. Like, what the shit? And once that image was in my brain, it had to happen.
Yeah. The rest of the fic was just a vehicle for that moment.
Pretty much. Well, the couch makeout scene was also very prevalent in my brain.
Good job.
Can I tell you something that might get cut out of this episode?
Yes, immediately.
That's that initial, before he freaks out, that couch makeup scene.
Yeah.
That was my basically like first makeout experience. Like, I'm pulling this straight from experience. So people in the comments were like, them making out of the couch was like, so I could like sense every minute of it. I was like, me too, bitch. I remember.
Me too, bitch. Oh my god. Can we talk about, like, this was well received, Aaron? Like, good for you. Like, a good amount of kudos, a good amount of comments, good hits. Well done.
I was shocked. So I kind of I was like, people in the steady fandom are like very voracious readers. There's a very big culture right now on TikTok of sharing fic recs, specifically with steady. Like, it's a very fic oriented fandom. And so I was like, there's a good chance that this will pick up some traction and that'll be cool. But I was not expecting nearly as many as I got, which was really, really fun. And I really love, so you can see when people add bookmark notes if they're public. So some people wrote some like really nice shit in the comments, and then other people made these like incredibly unhinged bookmark tags.
I love that.
I almost like the bookmark tags like more to a degree, because it's people's like real, just like they did not think that I was going to see it.
Yep. What, do you have really some of the highlights? Do you remember any?
Let me find them, because I think they're just like public in general.
Nice.
So a couple of people added them to their own collections, which was really sweet. So it was like, you know, steady fics I really loved or whatever. That was really nice. So cute. Worm safe good. Gah! Do not.
Amazing.
Love that one. Where's the good one? Oh, there was one that just like sent me. I sent it to Caitlin because it was just so fucking funny. Finger tingles, tears in my eyes, good lord. That was one that sent me. Because I also get finger tingles with really, really good fics, so I was like, yes.
Really?
Understand me. Yeah, I usually feel angst in particular in my hands.
Whoa, that's so strange. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that when we talk about one. But
okay, go.
But it's like a thing. Yeah, it's a thing that people who are really into like the angsty stuff, like sometimes that does happen where it's akin to ASMR. It's like a physical sensation.
Like a physiological response.
Yep.
Interesting.
So I get it in my hands. Yeah. And people sometimes get it in their hands, they get it in their arms, they get it in their chest. I mostly see it in my hands.
I'll have to pay attention the next time I go through that, but I'm also made of like glass, and anything breaks me, so maybe...
Glass bones and paper skin.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. So do you want to say more nice things about my fic? Because I'm really reveling in the validation right now.
I just can't believe you pulled off a bigger plot twist than M. Night Shyamalan. I hate you so much. And I'm just so in awe. Oh my god. Congratulations. Wow. I think we can end the show just outright. I don't think anything's going to top this episode.
We never have to do it again. Oh my god.
Man.
And the best part is, like, if you're just tuning in for this episode only, please know that, like, this was Alan's plan to do to me.
Oh my god. I'm so angry with you.
Has been for a long time.
You also know the like, listeners, you know that the thing that would happen if I had done this is Aaron would have torn me to shreds. And then I would have been like, true. Aaron, do you want to, would your rating change if you knew that the person who wrote this was on the Skype call? Just tears.
Well... Yeah, I mean, It was really fun. That was a really fun experience for me personally.
I'm glad you recorded that. Fucking like stitch that. This needs to be a TikTok. Make this a TikTok.
It's going to be. There's a reason I recorded it.
Oh, I hate you.
Caitlin also demanded that I send her the recording tonight.
Of course you did. Oh man, Caitlin, you know what? we're out. We're donezo.
Yeah.
I can't believe this.
Remember when I was like, do you want to come over or do you want to do this over Skype? And you were like, we should probably do it over Skype. I was like, yes. Thank God.
You don't have to figure out how to set up a secret camera.
Uh-huh. Because I was very much like, I don't know how I'm going to do that. He'll know immediately what's going on. But yeah, that was really funny.
Well done, Aaron. Just like all around, not just on the like ploy, but also like, yeah, that was a really, really good fic.
Thanks.
I thought it was, so well written. It was lovely. I thought I wish I'd seen some more sex, but that's fine.
It had a couple of excessive Stranger Things references. I can take that criticism. It's fine.
Yeah, and again, once I like read a different fic that was like, oh, this is like actually inaccessible. This was fine. This was just like, okay, I just need to like think a little harder, or like if I really want the answer to that, I need to go look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I cut a lot of
lovely
references to canon in the editing process, so it's fine.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Thanks.
Yeah.
I will take my 4.3.
It?
I mean, that's not fair. I do. One thing that is really annoying is that I keep going back and seeing little things that I would like to change.
Yeah.
And I've had to like really just accept that like it's done. I need to like walk away from it. Also, I don't know if you saw this, but the word count is exactly 9,600 words.
Yeah.
And that's because when I posted it, it was 95.99. And Caitlin texted me and said, "What the fuck? Add a word. Fix it. This is driving me nuts." Well, she didn't tell me to fix it. She basically said you couldn't have added one more word to make this an even number. And then I went back and split out an it's to an it is.
Genius.
And now
Absolute
it's a
genius.
perfect word count and I can't change it.
Well done.
Yeah.
And but also though, I think
in.
it's that like it's that concept that like art is never perfect. You just as an artist have to be okay with being like, okay, it's done, and like whatever mistakes or whatever things I wish might have been different. It's like it's a time capsule of what you wrote, of what you were feeling, what you were thinking at that precise moment. And I think that's wonderful.
Fully. And like definitely I tried to remember, I was like, when I read a fic, I don't sit there, like even for this podcast, I don't sit there and nitpick each little line or whatever and try to like talk about like, well, I would do this different, or like this phrasing is whatever, this word is used too many times, blah blah blah. Like I would never do that. Like we might have criticisms of a fic, but they're usually like, it's not nitpicky, and it's certainly not in like perpetual state. So I was like, okay, no one's reading this being like, you used the word languid twice just too many times. Can you tell that I've used the word language twice and I know it? So,
yeah, apparently.
Yep, I did. And so there's like moments where I like want to fix it, but I'm just like trying to like live with it being done. Because I am ultimately pretty proud of this. I think it's fun. I'm starting, but not committing to a not exactly sequel. Like, basically, another worm crawled into my brain, and I said, my, what should I do? And she was like, write it. And that fic is going to be from Eddie's perspective after they've been dating for a little bit, and him being like, basically just kind of like counting down the days until Steve realizes that he can do better, and like loving him and being like very happy with the situation that he's in, but like like feeling like it's finite, like, and Steve like kind of like still working through a lot of his issues, like really taking umbrage with that and like struggling, like being upset that is how he would think of him. And it's strengthening their relationship and having that sort of like come apart, because I think if Steve's issue is that he's afraid no one can love him, Eddie is equally afraid that no one can love him, but for different reasons. Yeah,
exactly. And I find that that's universal. I think like most people are afraid that they are unlovable or are not worthy of being loved, but all for different reasons.
I feel like Eddie's version of that is no good thing can last. I don't get good things, and I certainly don't get to keep them, so like how long until Steve realizes? And so that was like sort of the impetus of like, okay,
oh my god, that's gonna be a really good like companion piece. That's a good duology you've just created.
Thanks.
I can't wait to read it.
I'll send it to you.
Please do.
Yeah, that's fun. I guess I didn't really talk about Steady in this other than that I'm obsessed with him.
I think you have, though.
Great, as long as we all know that is the thing. This is
I have a question for you.
Answer for you, Daily Double.
Is the title a lyric?
It is.
From Green Day?
No.
No?
It is from Mariana Cross by Ghost. And I think probably the title of the next fic is going to be from My Chemical Romance.
Incredible. So let me ask you this. I've always been curious about this. Did you write it with that lyric in mind, or did you like write it while listening to it, or was it just something that afterwards you're like, this fits, and I think it encapsulates it really well?
As I was writing the fic, that song blew up on TikTok, and I was like, oh, that could be interesting. So I read through the lyrics of it and just kind of landed on this line, and it stuck.
Nice.
Yeah, it wasn't super intentional. And I like Ghost just in general as a band. I've listened to more than just that one song, although I think that one song is a hit for a reason. And that line just, I think, really, to me, was really indicative of sort of Steve's whole deal, where it's like he's held up a lot of the times in canon as like Steve the Hare Harrington, cool kid from Hawkins High, like rich kid with, you know, parents who are gone all the time so he can throw all these parties. And behind that is all of this like deep-seated trauma, and like it doesn't all come from the upside down. I don't think, like, we don't ever meet his parents, but you can't possibly argue with me that they are not at least neglectful,
right? Yeah.
So like this sort of like behind all the glamour, all we have are bruises, was like sort of a fascinating Steve Harringtonism to me.
Yeah, that's great.
And I feel like Eddie Munson would fucking love My Chemical Romance. So
I'm sure you'd be right.
Yeah, I think it works. I intentionally did an excerpt summary so you wouldn't pick up on it that it was me. He was a misdirect.
Okay, then actually, thanks for bringing it up. Did it have to be such a long excerpt?
I cut it. It was gonna be longer.
That was the cut.
I was gonna make you read the whole thing. Somebody was for me.
Oh my god.
That was my little joke for myself.
That's hilarious. Kudos. I cannot believe you didn't break once.
It helps that I'm hiding behind my microphone so you can't really see my face.
Fair.
But yeah, no, the summary was the worst part. Trying to summarize this fic was a nightmare. Tagging was also kind of hard, but I came up with a couple of nice tags that I liked.
You can probably experienced Eddie from My Cold Dead Hands. Is that one of them?
Like hint of Dom sub
undertones. Yep.
Yeah. Because it's really like, oh, this is also kind of interesting. Like I think I was writing it with the intention that Steve had like heard things about Eddie that may or may not have been true. And so when he goes for his throat, I wasn't thinking of it as trying for breath play right away. I was just thinking like he happened to be touching him and he hit his throat and like it triggered him. So I wasn't thinking of it with that intention, but like it makes sense that you would read it that way. It was just sort of another interesting moment of like, oh yeah, that does come across differently to readers than it does with authorial intent.
Yeah, I also think that probably plays really well into like into that particular situation where Steve is like has all of these preconceived notions, and I guess, you know, maybe I did as well, or if you were just really good at writing that at those kinds of expectations that subliminally I was also looking for them, you know, because that like the handcuffs over the bed or whatnot, I was like, okay, so this is like that's what this guy's jam is. And I was like, okay, fine. And yeah, you don't realize that you are also in Steve Harrington's boat where you're like, oh yeah, I have this preconceived notion. Yeah.
And one of the sort of interesting things that's happened a lot in the steady fic world is that a lot of people have latched onto them in BDSM relationships of various and sundry kink levels. And I wanted to play with that a little bit because I think there are a lot of really great fics about Steve sort of navigating pain play as a way to process trauma, which is totally fair, totally valid. But I was like, what would happen if like he really just like he knew he couldn't do that? Like he knew that was not on the table for him, and like what does that look like in a situation with somebody who like that it has been a part of their background before, and how do you navigate that sort of discrepancy in desire or interest? And it's not even to me really a discrepancy. I was like, in my heart of hearts, Eddie Munson is a service top.
Yep.
Yeah,
that
so which I
haven't loud and clear.
Yeah, and so I was like, Eddie doesn't really care. Eddie just wants to like have good sex with you, and so like, great, let's make this work however it works. When you were like, what's the other thing that Steve doesn't want? I was like, it's bondage. Definitely bondage. And I was like, this is hilarious. But yeah, this is so fun. I don't even know really where to go from here because this is just such a fun episode that I don't want it to end, but also we definitely have to wrap this up.
Yep. So Aaron, where can people find us, find more of our beautiful voices and shenanigans?
Well, you can find me on Cloud 9 because this is the greatest day of my life.
I hate you. Oh my god.
And you can find Alan
I'm deeply shook in like a way that I'm like, holy shit. The revelations that have come out tonight.
I love this. So we are available wherever your podcasts are carried. We have a website. It's theficlist.com, and then we're on Spotify, Apple, Audible, iHeartRadio, probably a bunch of other sites, SoundCloud. We are available via the TikTok. We have a presence on the TikTok. I am going to be fascinated to see if people from TikTok, or like if our listeners like go and read my fic and the hit count goes up. I think that'll be really funny.
Yeah. Hey, leave a comment and then tell her Team Alan, #Team Alan.
Oh, Alan, you have to leave the strongly worded comment now. You have to. I want it.
Yeah, I will. I absolutely will. That's great. That's going to be what I do before bed tonight. Perfect.
Like as soon as you said that, I was like, do it. give me a novel's worth of complaints about my fic.
No, because then you'll know my I'll do it. Can I do it anonymously?
I don't know. I guess so.
We'll figure it out.
You're gonna have to get a burner account the way that I got a burner account.
Which has to be different from the burner account that I eventually send you a fic with.
Right, which also has to be different. Yep. So get a third email address. It did take a couple weeks to get my burner account, so think about that. So anyway, so we're on TikTok. We're on all the social medias, Twitter, mostly. We are technically on Instagram, but like for how long though? And we don't go to Facebook. Check us out on Tumblr, theficlistpodcast.tumblr.com, with my co-conspirator, Caitlin. Who has been very kindly hiding this from Alan as well for the last month and a half or so. Yeah. Traitor. And encouraged all of my devious behaviors. Sat next to me on a train to New York City while I wrote the sequel in public. Yeah, we're trollops. It was really fun. And let's see, what else?
We have a website now.
We do have a website. It's theficlist.com. I said that at the beginning.
Well. Did you though?
I did though. I know you can't trust me anymore, but joke's on you. Trust was broken in 2016, Alan. This was my revenge. Whatever. I was like, this is the greatest day of my life. And so if you want to read along with us, there's a Google Doc. It is linked in all of the episodes of our podcast, so you can read the fics that we are talking about, which is hilarious in this particular episode. If you want to recommend us a fic, it can be something that you've written. Ooh. Yeah. Or something a friend has written, or just a fic that you really like. There is a Google Doc that you can do that with as well. Please bear in mind that we got a backlog. We are just not keeping up with. So TBD what we're going to do with all of those. But you can. The form's live. It's there. Unless it's not, in which case we took it down. I don't know. This episode exists in perpetuity. The Google Doc may not. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows when you listen to this.
Yep. For business inquiries, if you want us to for any business, I don't know. The Fic List
we do birthday
gmail.com.
parties, bachelorette party.
Now that I've revealed all of my own sort of neuroses via Steve Harrington, maybe we could meet. Maybe I could meet Joe Quinn.
Oh my God! Someone send this to Joe Quinn, please.
I know, Joe Quinn. Please come talk about your experience with fandom on this podcast for like a hot minute. I have concerns for that man, mostly just for his safety, but boy, am I in love with him. And on that note,
thanks for listening to another riveting episode of the Fic List.
Thanks everyone. We can only go down from here. This is the peak. Just kidding.
Always a pleasure.
Always. Love you.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.